Good afternoon, everybody. We are Crossroads at Mira Business FM. The little red light is on by the mic, which tells us it's time to go. We're here in collaboration with Middlesex University Dubai, where I and my wonderful co-host Deema Maghalseh teach. And we're here to talk film, TV, and the entertainment industry. By the way, you can find us on Mira Business FM. If you're listening right now, you already did, so I don't need to tell you that. You can also find us online at all the usual platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody, but we're there. Anyway, so let's see. A lot of news this week. Not all of it about entertainment, but let's think about what entertainment news there is. The Sea Dance 2.0 AI little clip of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise doing their dance. Deema, your thoughts on that?
Okay, you caught me off guard a bit.
That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. Well,
Keep everyone on their toes.
what do you want to know specifically? Give me direction.
AI clip, good or bad? In 10 words or less.
Good, scary, everything all at once. And this raised question amongst people, like, is it going to be like really how much does it going to affect stars? Since now it's just like easy to create that. And even recently, before coming here, I saw also a short film, purely created by AI, and it's really, really beautiful. Like you can see the human expressions, all these kind of things. So there's always this question, where is this going?
Yeah, and I mean, it is the only question. When I say there's a lot of news, and then that's the only entertainment news that really has people talking right now, because it's talking about the future of the industry. It's the only tool that matters right now. The Oscars are coming up. Nobody's talking about the Oscars. Nobody's seen any of the Oscar movies. Nobody cares about the Oscar movies. Nobody cares about stars anymore, because stars can't pull in people. It's all about how are the films being made, which leads us, in this artful segue, to our guest today. For the very first time, we sadly do not have our guest with us in the room to share the magic.
But he still exists.
But he's out there somewhere, out there in the ether. Adolf El Assal, are you out there? Can you hear us? I feel like we're doing a seance right now. Knock on the table.
Well.
You don't even need to knock on the table. Hello, Adolf. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Yeah, so sorry that I couldn't make it to Dubai because I'm stuck here in Abu Dhabi right now because I'm waiting for a package. It should have arrived yesterday.
This never happened to Johnny Carson somehow. Don Rickles never said, sorry, Johnny, I'm waiting for a package. I'm staying in Vegas. But that's okay. We'll forgive you. As long as you're here to talk to us about the voodoo that you do so well. I want you to tell us in your own words, but just to introduce you to the folks back home, it says you're an Egyptian-Luxembourgish filmmaker and producer. I got this from your own info. Is Luxembourgish the correct term that I should use?
No one knows really. It's Luxembourgish or Luxemburger. So it's one of those two.
It's about Luxembourg. Egyptian-Luxembourg filmmaker and producer. And the interweb, where we're talking to you via right now, thank you, interweb, tells us he's known for making humor with serious themes, as in your film Sawah, #1 film on Netflix, which tells no small achievement that, congratulations. It tells the story of an Egyptian DJ en route to a competition in Brussels who winds up in trouble in Luxembourg. So calling on various strands of your Crossroads experience, which makes you an ideal guest for our show. I'm going to stop chattering on. Adolf, tell us about yourself.
Basically, I'm a filmmaker. I was born in Egypt, but at the age of 2 months, we moved to the Emirates, actually. I spent my early childhood in the UAE, like from Abu Dhabi to Dubai to Khorfakan, and then in Fujairah. And at the age of 6, we moved to Luxembourg. So, and that's where then I spent...
You did the bulk of your experience in Luxembourg, correct?
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to the films you've made, but Deema was saying earlier, and that's why it was an artful segue that I messed up by going back to your description to properly introduce you. But you had a post this week on LinkedIn about AI. Is that correct? Then we'll get back to what you actually do. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the news this week.
You shared a short film made by AI, and you questioned, where is this going? And
Yeah, like
I
very
was
discouraged.
a viewer of that.
Yeah, like this, I don't know, like from day to day, like it evolves so fast and it needs to be regulated somehow because you cannot be like completely open bar like that. It needs really, especially for copyright reasons. So it would be good, like especially like as you talked earlier on with this Tom Cruise video, like anyone can use anyone's image at the moment, the voices and so on. And I think it's very important to see how where it's heading
What are your
because it
thoughts
moves
about how
really
it
fast.
could be
And
regulated, though?
it like I mean like trying to find a way because like with music, for example, there was this big debate like 20 years ago when iTunes came into place and when music was so available, then Napster started stealing everything and putting everything available for everyone, and then they found something like DRM, like digital rights management, where it's finally there's a way how to regulate rights and so on for the artists. So maybe with AI, maybe there could be something similar that could put into place, or to have a stamp on the videos to keep it as original as possible, or I don't know. Like I mean, like
You know, the issue, especially for music, that there are lots of AI softwares now. You just say, create music for me similar to Hans Zimmer, for example. They take one of the music, they just change the scale. Similar
yeah.
arrangement, similar feeling, vibe, everything, changing the scale makes it totally different, yet same vibe, same everything. This is what makes it a real concern, that how can he claim copyrights for that? You know, like if you use it on a certain product and you don't say that this is inspired by Hans Zimmer or based on Hans Zimmer music, it can go as original music as well. But then I don't use Hans Zimmer for that. Not I can afford it, but I mean, like with AI, it does affect other musicians this way. You can easily just choose AI.
Now, Adolf, you have an online YouTube seminar. I think I'm using the right word. No BS filmmaking, correct? And you also have a book out now. This is a family network, so I'm not going to use the full title. How not to fudge up your filmmaking, your film. Can you tell us? I think they're moving along the same lines, right? The seminar is an evolving conversation about it, and the book is your wisdom and lessons learned along the way. I want to talk about those, but right now I'd like to say, is the emergence, the sudden overnight emergence of this technology affecting how you conduct seminars or how you teach how not to fudge up your film?
Yeah, like the thing is, because the new generation, they're growing up with AI right now. Okay, like my generation, your generation, we come from different backgrounds, so we have different ways of seeing things, and where everything wasn't that accessible. And today, like whatever happens with AI, I don't know, like there will be so much content that it would be very, very hard to categorize things somehow and to find the things that are very special. And with my book, I wrote it out of an urgency somehow because a lot of people ask me, like, how can I tell a story? How can I make a film? How can I get actors together? How can I direct? How can I get the right costumes, the right locations, and so on and so forth? And I was actually very happy when people they ask me those questions. That means there are still people interesting, especially young people, in doing things in artisanal way. That means with what you have and to create something, not just typing a few words in a prompt and then suddenly you have something that is the machine is creating. And so with my book, I'm trying really to explain in a very practical manner how to make a film from A to Z, and all this is based on my experiences because, like, I started filmmaking like over 20 years ago. And I was also at a transition where between analog and digital, for example, where things weren't that accessible, but it started to become more accessible. So I started doing my own films using like mini DV cameras, for example, and using like a nonlinear editing software, like a Premiere Pro. Or, back then, Premiere, it was actually Premiere 6.5 or something like that, and then Final Cut. And then I saw really the evolution, how things evolved over the years. And
Over the
for me,
past 20
filmmaking is not
years,
just
you're saying,
in the
correct?
past, yeah, like over 20 years. Yeah, like my first film I did like in 2003, and I started in documentaries as well. And that's also something where AI will not be able to replicate somehow, because documentaries is really, like, really, that's where you get really close to characters, really, to stories, and to try to be as true as possible to the meaning. I doubt that AI will be able to bring this across. And it's not just about technology. And because film, especially, it's about emotions, about story. It's about how you can change things in society somehow, and that's how I see myself as a filmmaker as well.
Why did you specifically choose this title for your book, while your book is guidance more than telling how not to mess up your film?
Yeah. Why? Because I wanted to be catchy. That's the thing.
That's it.
I didn't use AI for that, by the way. No, like, I really wanted to be catchy.
Came from the heart.
Okay. So it's not that there's something
Yeah.
specific you think that, from your experience, what actually ruins a film? What do you think actually ruins a film? Like, I had this conversation with David as well, and I said, like, we usually focus on success stories about how to make a film, how to be successful, how is this and that, but we never share failure stories. And I think, like, you learn from failure more than actually your success, right? So, yeah, what do you think from your own experience that failing moments, or like things that actually filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers need to avoid doing?
Yeah, like, things you need to fail, like everything else in life. Okay, so you need, like, for me, I went to film school. Okay, but I learned more on the field. So I really did a lot of things. As I said, like, I started having, like, equipment that was accessible, that I was getting from the school. So that was very cool. And it was before smartphones and so on, and YouTube. And thing is, it's really important to fail, because that's how you learn. And because I've done 4 feature films, I produced over 20. I've done, like, tons of short documentaries. I've done over 200 music videos and commercials. So I've seen it all. Like, I have, like, I've seen really how to do things, and plus. I'm also experienced in using all the different tools for marketing your film and so on. But I really believe that film is something that is very collaborative. Like, you need people. You cannot do it just like as I said, like, with a few words. You really need people, and it's also, like, I like the social aspect from it, because the more you are surrounded by people where you can learn things from each other, and create something together, and fail together, and win together. That's really what I love the most about filmmaking, and that's why with my book, I really wanted to use that to show that you can make it somehow. Like, I don't talk just about successes. I really talk about real practical ways in how to avoid mistakes. Even though I don't believe in mistakes, because it's really important to learn things the hard way, because that's how you make things better somehow, and that you can really become more fulfilled as a filmmaker. And that's really the thing that I really want to bring across.
In your experience, like you said, like, in the past 20 years, you've been, like, working on films and stuff. Any specific failures you went through that really taught you, or it was, like, memorable, stand out for you?
Failures. Oh, yeah, but because my story is completely crazy. Like, like, the first film I've ever done was a feature film. Like, I didn't do, like, short films and so on. First, I did a feature with
Sorry
my
to
friends.
interrupt, but did you say you started in documentary? Was this a documentary feature or a fiction feature?
It was a fiction feature,
Okay.
but it was shot like a documentary.
Okay.
Okay. Because thing is, before that, I was doing a lot of short documentaries in the UK for a channel called, like, Channel 4. They had, like, these small segments called Streaming to Wonder, and I was also doing a lot of stuff for Current TV, which was, like, Al Gore's, like, it was before YouTube, and so there was, like, this TV channel we were doing, like, short documentaries. I was doing them in the UK on different types of social subjects, and also some profiles on artists and so on. And then I took all those skills to make a first film with 2 friends of mine that was shot like a documentary, where both of them, they came as well from documentaries, and we did a feature, like a fiction feature, shot with no money, no script, just with the characters that we had, and we didn't know where this would head. And a couple of years later, it was selected then at the Berlin Film Festival in the official selection, and that was quite. It was quite something, because that was how we entered the film industry as professionals
Huge
somehow.
achievement. When you think about the
It was quite
competition,
something. Yeah. So suddenly we're those young filmmakers sitting there with all those amazing filmmakers from all over the world, and people, they saw that we had like stories to tell, and we're quite unique, and we're also using new technologies at the same time. And because
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but you say on your comes from a direct quote from your social media that your focus is cross-cultural storytelling. So we thought, okay, Crossroads, prime candidate. You've spent many years, as you said, in Luxembourg, in Europe, and now you're based in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. Where would you say? What's the word? I wouldn't say difficult, but you left Europe to focus on storytelling here. Why is that?
why is that? Like, thing is, I feel like if you just see my name, first of all, like Adolf El Assal, it's a funny name, so you don't know where to categorize it. Like, who calls his child Adolf, first of all? Okay, but there's a story behind it. Okay,
Okay, let's hear that
What
story.
is the story?
the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually,
You asked for it.
it's yeah. So it's actually my great grandfather. He came from he was like half Slovenian, I guess, and Slovenia was like in the 19th century was part of the Austrian-Hungarian empire, and then I think through him like the whole lineage then moved to Egypt, and that's how I got this name. And I also have an uncle called like that. I have also I have many people in my family called Adolf actually. And when I came to I never had an issue with that name when I was in in the UAE when I grew up, but it was just when I came to Europe where they were still thinking about this other Adolf.
I've heard there was another.
Really changed, tried to change the world somehow. And so I grew up with that, so I had a lot of issues with that growing up like this, and especially post 9/11, like when you carried an Arabic name as well. So that's also something that it was quite toll on myself, and that's why I became a filmmaker as well, because I had so many stories to tell. And I'm coming from Luxembourg, which is actually, I don't want to say copy-paste of the UAE, but it's a very multicultural country. So there, I speak myself 5 languages fluently. Like Luxembourg, geographically, it's like in the middle between like world powers like France, Germany, and as well Belgium. So and most people living there are expats, so it's really a country.
Oh, so it is very similar to the
depends.
UAE in that way. Similar vibes.
It's extremely similar. It's extremely similar. Also history-wise, because also like their wealth started from natural resources as well, and then they turned into services and banking over the years, including filmmaking. And so it's a country where they have issues with their identity, because most people, they have foreign backgrounds. So it's very rare that you find pure Luxembourgish people. So it's not something that is common. So I think it's maybe a few families, but because the country that's like it's one of the youngest countries in Europe. So it's been there maybe 150 years or something like that. And just like the Emirates, when they discovered the natural resources of the years, so that's why there's some wealth that was created, and they were smart enough to create really a society where people can coexist together.
And that helped me realize the question that I actually wanted to ask you before that I fumbled. I was trying to find the right words for it. You've told cross-cultural storytelling in Europe and cross-cultural storytelling here. What are the stories you want to tell? The stories of somebody in Europe, in this part of the world? I'll make it more broad. What sort of stories do you like to tell?
Like I said, I try to be as personal as possible. Okay, I'm coming from Luxembourg. As I said, I speak so many languages, so my films are very multicultural, multilingual, and I try to mix different genres as well. So I try always to do things that are quite particular in order to be true to myself, and also to be different somehow. I don't want to copy what's already there, and also because of all this trauma that I had over the years growing up in Europe, and I don't want to also hide it, like Europe as well. It's a very segregated place where there's so much indiscrimination, a lot of racism, a lot of divisions in society, and coming being in Luxembourg somehow. You have to deal with all those things as well. So,
sorry to interrupt again. I can't stop myself today somehow. But would you say that there's more? Again, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But would you say that the discrimination is more concentrated in Luxembourg, or are you saying throughout Europe in many countries? You find that?
It's throughout Europe in general, but Luxembourg as well. I really don't want to hide it, because the thing is, being the only Arab family that was there in the 80s, it wasn't easy path for myself and my siblings, for example, and my parents. So it was very hard for us to integrate. So we went through a lot of struggle over there, and I saw a lot of things that has really traumatized me. And at the same time, I had this feeling that I don't belong in this place somehow, because I was always treated as different, because there was no community, no people to support us. Because there's lots of other communities, like for example, like foreign communities in Luxembourg, especially. Like there's a big Portuguese community, or there's a big Italian community, or big French-speaking community, or big English-speaking community, but there was no Arab community. So I had to be friends with everyone somehow in order to feel part of this society. And but over the years, like the more you grow up, the more you learn to think, the more you read, the more you travel, you feel that there's more things to the world than just this little bubble that we live in. Because Luxembourg is so small. It's smaller than Dubai, by the way. Okay, it has like 600,000 people living there, and you put on top 200,000 people that come from across the borders to work there. So so to be part of a society where it's really hard to, I don't want to say have a voice or whatever, but I was always treated differently, even until today.
And so
that's the main reason
you responded to film as a medium to have a voice.
Exactly.
You
So that was my thing.
in your films, it has a comedic aspect. Like it combines between like comedy and like dark comedy. But like the way you talk about like your identity and whatever you went through, you called it like the trauma you went through and your identity. It seems like way heavier than comedic. Was that a choice, or did that come out as form of expressing like naturally, or was it a way of escapism, or how did that comedy part was formed?
Like, and the comedy part comes actually because I'm Egyptian. Or if you're aware, like Egyptians are naturally funny people.
Yeah.
They're actually very famous in making comedies as well, like cinema-wise. I grew up with comedies. I was a very big fan of like multicultural comedies. Like for example, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was one of my favorite shows when I was a teenager, because I could relate to Will Smith back then in the show, because like it was this kid from Philadelphia who goes to his uncle in LA, and he tries to integrate there. And I felt somehow like this as well. And as well, with comedy, in order to tell good comedy, you need drama as well. And my films are really based on my own experiences. Like for example, my film Sawah, 80% of it, what you see on screen, is really based on things that I experienced myself. And like for example, I was myself a DJ when I was younger. I got so much trouble on borders when I travel, even with my Luxembourg passport. Like I always get into trouble because of my name or where I was born. I always have to justify myself for different things, and lots of stories like that. And
you know what,
so I try really to
sorry.
yeah. So I just try to find my voice like this.
I find your situation is actually a kind of comedic, like because usually if there's a certain discrimination or questioning someone's identity, basically based on your nationality. But you do have a big contrast between the name, Adolf, right, and the nationality. So you feel like people need to get over the name first, then they get shocked by the nationality, right? So that's by itself is comedic, but then the consequence is actually discrimination and giving you a trouble.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, and that's why, like, I just take it lightly. Instead of crying in my corner and say, "Yeah, no one likes me. I don't know what to do," and so on. Instead, really, because that's why I was like, really, as a teenager, I didn't know where to fit in, and when I discovered film, that's like especially like films like from neorealism from Italy, or the new wave in France.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I know that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a formative influence. We found that out. But what films and filmmakers? Now, you already started answering Italian neorealism, and what other things would you say are influences on your work?
Like in my work, like things, I discovered cinema actually late. The first time I went to cinema, I was 22 years old, or 23 even. And I saw one film in black and white called La Haine, a French film from the 90s, which is set in the suburbs of Paris, which included so many different aspects that I liked, from the characters, from the story, from the comedic aspect, from dramatic aspect, and that has really inspired me. And thanks to this film, I managed to discover the influences, like what the director Mathieu Kassovitz had in order to do this masterpiece. So I started discovering that he was inspired by the French New Wave, by Italian neorealism, by the American cinema, like in the 70s, all this new Hollywood that came into place from Scorsese to Coppola to De Palma and so on. And what I found so fascinating is that all those people, they used non-actors trying to tell stories that are relatable, where people can relate to them. And I'm trying to give a voice to the voiceless, and that's how, with time, I said, okay, like maybe for me as a filmmaker, using comedy and using those aspects as well, because when you talk about comedy, people always think it's just for commercial purposes, or it's just for the big audiences and so on. But I can assure you that, for example, my film Sawah, the first time I've shown the film was in front of like thousands of people in China. In Beijing, a country where where everything is so closed and so on, and seeing Chinese people as laughing at my jokes and my situations that I went through, that they could relate to them and so on, that made me really it made me so fulfilled, because I said
It's a
film is
powerful
really,
moment. It had to have been a powerful moment.
Especially someone from total different
So,
culture as well, to relate to that.
yeah. And they could really relate to it, because the film was very successful in China, funnily enough.
Do you remember
I went myself.
specific stories or like sequences that they really connected with or laughed at? Like what kind of situational moment they laughed at in the film?
Like funnily enough, like, there were jokes in the film that only the Chinese laughed about. Okay, and I don't know, maybe there was something that they could relate to, and
Can you think of an
especially
example?
the rhythm of. I know there's this, for example, there's this situation, there's this character in the bus, and there's the two characters talking to each other, and just like with the facial expressions from the characters, just because of that, they were laughing, or there were like lots of other situations where that were actually improvised by the actors, that I didn't even write on the script, but on set we decided to improvise. And that also, it worked somehow, and because I was very lucky, because with this film I traveled like really around the world, and
As I said, number one on Netflix. I mean, you've had a tremendous success.
Yeah, and it was quite something, and I never expected that, coming from Luxembourg, the small country, but it became somehow like it's the first film from Luxembourg, because I doubt that you heard any film from Luxembourg.
No, I'm not up on the Luxembourg film scene myself, but I think I take your word for it that it's the first. And I wonder. Well, no, I don't want to. I was going to ask you about the reaction in Luxembourg, but I'm more interested in what Deema was talking about finding humor in trauma. I think that's fascinating. I think that's what's distinctive about your work, that there are a lot of filmmakers and storytellers dealing with trauma because we live in a traumatic world, but you find humor in that, and I think that's what sets your work apart. That's certainly what sets a film like Sawah apart. So I do think that that's the sort of thing that crosses cultural borders far better. But now, because I know we're going to go off on a different track, what was the reaction in Luxembourg to the film?
I was waiting for that question. Like, the thing is, some people, they felt offended. Some people, they loved it. But what was amazing is that really a lot of film, like, I don't know, like not even film people, because children from immigrant background in Europe in general, they are not used to go to the cinema and to see people that look like them on the big screen. And I've seen it also with my previous features as well, because I've done 4 features. So I've done work in the past as well. And people locally, the critics, they hate my work, always, like in Luxembourg especially. Okay, and this really, and it touched me at the beginning of my career. I was always touched, because some people, they were so mean to me. They said I'm not even allowed to carry a camera. That's how bad my films are. But at the same time, I managed to bring thousands of people to the cinema, especially young people, and some people, they went many times to see my films like on the big screen. It was pre-Netflix, pre-YouTube, and so on, and they felt connected to my work because they saw people and situations that they could relate to. And it was the first time for them to experience like that, and they felt represented. and so on. And lots of young people also decided to become filmmakers as well, or to become storytellers, or to
Because of
write
seeing
books.
your
Or to,
film, you inspired people. Well, that
like I inspired them, and also my story,
can't be a
also
better
myself
payoff than
as a
that.
person.
Yeah.
Because we grew up, like in Europe, especially when you have like you come from an immigrant background, most people, even though I don't like that word expat or immigrant, whatever, when you come with a foreign background in Europe, you come from very low class, like very working class. So you don't grow up with art, for example. Okay, like you're not used to have like to read a book. Like I read my first book, I was 19 years old, for example. Okay.
Okay.
Or and as I said, yeah, and so you don't, because they don't promote that. Like the society doesn't want you to do that in Europe, especially. Like because they always put you in boxes, and you don't see this that you can grow
You're
somehow and
not
be different.
recognized as an artist.
No, and that was actually the main reason I decided to come to the UAE, because the thing is, I felt that I was like an ambassador for this amazing country called Luxembourg. I will never say anything bad about it because it's really a beautiful country. They gave me so much, but just like the mentality, like I'm still Arab, I'm still Egyptian, I'm still different. I still have this funny name, and I still want to make films.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean, I
wanna
guess
feel-
that's kind of what my question was. It sounds more blunt and rude than I mean, but why are you here? Because
Why?
you did have a success in a country that is not known for its film industry. Let's put it kindly. The Luxembourg film industry is not the first place that young filmmakers go to, and you had a success. So I was curious about how much you would have been embraced by whatever film industry there is there. But you're saying, well, certainly, I mean, film critics are not the film industry. They're I don't know what they are. They're people who write about films. I'd be curious, what did you ever notice the sort of films that they did like? Because you said they did not like your films.
Yeah, that was similar to a question I had in mind. That do you think the critique was because they didn't like the topics you are sharing or communicating, or for other technical reasons, as in for the way it was found? So, what was the critique mainly for? Is it for your voice? Is it like attacking your voice?
Like I don't want to be mean towards critics.
Oh, they're not
okay,
yours. We can say whatever we want about them.
because I'm pretty sure like lots of them they like my work. Okay, because some of them also like they said that they liked some stuff of my like a few topics that I talk about and so on. But I think it's just like maybe my story in general, because it's also nothing against film schools. I really respect film schools and so on. But lots of film critics, they respect more filmmakers coming from elite film schools.
So what Deema was asking, you're saying it's about the technique and the technical aspects far more than the subject matter.
Yeah, I think it's more the technical aspect, because thing is, as I said, like for me, I just take a camera and shoot what I have around me and like tell a story. Some people they like it, others they feel it's not real cinema. But for me, cinema is about giving emotions and telling a story at the end of the day.
And when they say it's not real cinema, in which sense?
Maybe because maybe they're too old. Maybe they can't relate to my topics. Maybe they're too old, for example. Like because as I said, I was a DJ, so I was also very like I grew up with the hip hop culture, for example, which is a culture that started in the 80s and became more popular in the 90s, and 2000 became like the biggest music or subculture in the world. And for me, because I come from this generation, so just taking with what you have, just as in hip hop, because the hip hop music was created like that, so using samples from like old music and creating something else out of it, or breakdancing, using dance and creating some new dancing, graffiti, same thing. So it's also it's just like creating with what you have, you create something new, and because I come from this culture, so that's why. With my films, I believe there's a lot of hip hop in there, because I take lots of things together and I try to create my own voice like that. And maybe many critics, because they're not from this culture, they don't know how to deal with that.
But I mean, there's a long tradition, certainly in the 90s. I mean, we were talking last week about Quentin Tarantino. That's what he did. But he had technical polish because he hired very good crews. But he quotes constantly from older films. That's what he does. So it's in a way, the film equivalent of hip hop to a certain degree in terms of what you're talking about. But also what you're talking about the not polished technical aspect. Anybody who knows their film history would know, especially in Europe, there's a long tradition, certainly going back to the art cinema of the 50s, the French New Wave,
Italian neorealism,
the cinema verite of I don't want to use the word amateur, but people who don't have technical polish, like Francois Truffaut, who was a film critic and then picked up a camera and started making movies. And by the way, it's interesting to note that Quentin Tarantino was on something recently bashing Truffaut, hates Truffaut. But he's not a filmmaker. For I think the exact same reason. He's as a film critic who wants that technical polish. But anybody who knows their film history knows there's a long tradition to what you're doing.
You know, Adolf, I find your story really interesting. It's so complex because coming like your experience has like so much to say about discrimination or about not being recognized as an artist. And while trying to express that in the industry, you're also facing that again. You know, you're going through something because you're trying to express the same point. So they are proving your point, basically. It's like a story within a story. But question is like, when you're writing a scene, for example, and it's like rooted in this discomfort or trauma, when do you decide if this is gonna be like comedic or humor, or this is gonna be actually dramatic? Because even if you have dark comedy, I'm sure like you wanna keep balance between both. It's a humor not for the sake of humor. It's the humor because you have a message or you have a point to prove, right? And you want to keep balance between the emotional effect and the lightness. So how do you decide while writing? Is it intuitively? Is it like there's a thoughtful process goes through it? When do you decide this scene has to be dramatic? This scene has to be a bit comedic?
And while you're thinking of that answer, I'm going to say we are Crossroads, a mirror business.
This is David's favorite part.
For once, I'm going to do this right, even though it's more than halfway through. Sorry about that. In collaboration with Middlesex University Dubai. Search for us on Mirror Business FM. You can find us online at all the usual platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, what have you. Back to you, Adolf.
Yeah. Like things, like for me, when I tell a story, I already have the whole structure in place. So because I think very like, because for me, stories beginning, middle, end. A scene is beginning, middle, end. So you conflict, and conflict can be dramatic, can be humor, can be many different things. And they also say that comedy doesn't travel as well. Like that's something which is very common. And all those challenges, I like them because that really pushes me. And when I start writing, I always try to find what is the intention of the scene, like what do I want to give, and what's going to happen next in the story. So basically, the comedy aspects, they come naturally because I write a lot based on my own experiences. So sometimes I'll write down, like whenever happens to me, I write so much like on things that I see interesting, that inspired me or that have touched me or whatsoever. And then I put it in there. And at the same time, I also work with another screenwriter together, so I don't work alone. I have a writer from Canada called Dennis Foon, which is one of the top writers in Canada, who's been in the business for like 50 years or so. So it's quite experienced. And with him together, we always try to find the right balance between drama and humor, because it's always nice to hear his point of view as well. Because even though there's a age and different background and so on, we have a lot of similarities in where we come from. Because Dennis, for example, he was born in the US. He's Jewish, and then he fled during the Vietnam War as a refugee to Canada, and he became a writer there. And he started writing stories about unprivileged people and from lower societies and so people in society and so on. And I feel that we know how to deal with specific things together. So we have very good organic way of working, and sometimes he finds things funny, sometimes I find things funny, sometimes he doesn't like it, sometimes I like it, and then we always find a way to move forward somehow. Because also something very important is that film like gets made like so many different times. Like it gets made when you write it, gets made when you shoot it, and gets made when you edit it, and sometimes even when you distribute it as well. So there's many different ways of bringing your story across, and for me, it's really the story and the emotions you want to give to people. That's the most important at the end.
You said earlier that you were surprised when Chinese audience, for example, related to some humor or like comedic moments. Do you see certain cultures are relating more to the dramatic aspect of your story while others connecting more with the comedic part, or you see it always goes in line together?
I think it goes in line together, because it's something that I like a lot, especially when you show films on big screen and to share with audiences, and especially Q&As, to talk with audiences at the end. because then you feel that a lot of people, they have interesting questions, and makes you really think on how our world functions. Like I remember when, as I said, like I went 8 times to China. I went on a whole tour around all the biggest cities there. I had so many screenings, so many Q&As. Some Q&As lasted for like 2 hours, and so they had so many questions. And that really fulfilled me in a way that I said, okay, like really cinema is something so universal and so strong.
Any questions
It comes
stand
to
out? Any
Sorry?
questions you remember that really like did stand out?
Stand out, for example, just very basic, like someone coming from a village going to the big city. That's my, like in Sawah, that's how it is. Someone from Egypt going to Europe because he wants to fulfill his dreams. And that's something a lot of Chinese people can relate to, for example. Okay, and all the struggle that they go through, also with discrimination because of the different provinces or different wherever dialects they speak, or how they look like, or their background, the social status, and so on. So there's lots of different things that we're talking about. I was very surprised how the Chinese they could relate and talk openly like that, especially in countries where everything is so closed. And funnily enough, when you go on WeChat, for example, but you need the Chinese WeChat, so you have to be in China and you search and you look on forums. They have like lots of forums there where people discuss things and like that. And there's so many things about my film, how to talk about it, and how also with my film breaks the stereotypes towards Arabs, for example, and how they see a different view on the world. And there's also lots of memes that were created there, and lots of things and that's what made the film so successful in China. And
So you found that you said earlier that the common wisdom is that humor doesn't travel. And one thing you did mention earlier that they were laughing about facial expressions. Do you think the humor was more for the physical humor, or humor that's even dependent on language came across national borders? Or do you think it's a healthy mix of both?
like I think it's a lot about like really like the physical humor. Okay,
Yeah.
because I doubt that most Chinese they speak English or all of, because films in there's so many different languages in the film. It's like 4 languages in there, so you have scenes where characters they talk different languages between each other, and but they understood somehow the intention, and thing is like film like the comedy aspect. Like I'm a big fan of Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton, for example. Like they didn't need dialogues to
Well,
tell to
that's
bring
what
a
I was
story
thinking
across.
about. The silent film comedians certainly traveled well. Everybody in the world loved, in the early days of film, Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton, like you said, and then still do, the people who watch those old films. It becomes more difficult when comedy becomes language dependent, that it travels across borders. And so I was wondering if you think, and this is getting more towards, I want to talk about your future. I also want to talk about your online stuff and the book a bit. We haven't really touched on it much at all. But can we talk for a second about, what are you working on now as a filmmaker? You said you're working with this Canadian screenwriter on a script right now, or is the script done? Are you filming? Can you just tell us a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, I have so many projects at different stages. So there's another passion project that I'm working on. I've been working on for many years that I'm trying to finance. Unfortunately, I had the whole financing in place, but then COVID came and everything fell down to the drain. So I have to do it again, because it was actually a very big international co-production between many different countries. Had also lots of named actors and so on. But then now I'm trying to reshape, refinance this film, and hopefully maybe I'm gonna make it someday. Like, because something that I learned over the years is really patience. That you need really a lot of patience
So,
to make a film.
what is no BS filmmaking then?
So no BS filmmaking is really to talk without any I don't want to say filters, but really to show filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers that they can make it somehow in the business, and by using the tools that you have at your disposal today. Okay, even though I'm like I believe in pure filmmaking, doing things together, but I mean, it's also like how to use the tools that are available. Like just to tell you an example, I sold my film myself to Netflix. Like I went to them, okay, I knocked on their door. They didn't want to meet me, and I just didn't give up. And then they gave me a meeting, and they loved the film so much that they said, okay, we're gonna acquire it. Okay, and thing is, like, because in this business, something that a lot of young people especially need to learn, that you need a lot of courage, you need a lot of patience, you need a lot of strength, in order to reach your goal somehow at every step whenever you make a film. And that's what I'll try to teach people, to show them, like based on experiences and case studies on all the mistakes that I've done and how I managed to come out of it somehow. Like it can be, for example, if an actor is not in a good mood on set, how to deal with him. If a camera breaks down, what to do. Like an example, for example, on the Sawah, I was shooting during the winter, and it was super cold in Europe, which was like minus 15, minus 20 degrees. And then suddenly the camera broke down. What happened? Then everyone started to panic. I just took out my iPhone and I started shooting with the actors that were in this really cold situation. I continued shooting the scene with my iPhone. It was an iPhone, I don't know which one was it back then, like an 8, 9, something like that. Not the highest quality whatsoever. But I managed to shoot the scene, and we used some of the shots in the final film. And you don't see a difference between the iPhone footage and the Arri Alexa footage with those amazing lenses and so on. So it's just like to show those tools that you can find solutions, because film, like really, like time is so valuable, and time is money as well. Like different depends on the situation, and I just want to show people those tools and give them courage that they can do it somehow.
You mentioned some challenges you faced while making films. How did the journey of publishing your book go? Did you face anything similar? Was it a total different category, or how did that experience go?
Like the book, I wrote it last summer out of frustration. I was sitting in a very hot summer in London, and I wrote it over like, I think maybe 18 days, something like that. Like every day I was just writing, just putting on paper, like based on my own experiences, and then structure the whole thing somehow and keep it simple as well. Like I really don't want to talk about successes or failures or whatever. I was talking really about practical ways of dealing with things. Okay, like from the moment you have your story till the moment you're in front of an audience to show your film, and it just came just like completely natural, using my voice, the way how I speak. So I didn't want to make it too intellectual or too technical or so whatever. It's really practical, because that's how I see films. You have to be extremely practical and tactical and strategic as well. Like in order to think many things ahead. So if something happens, you always need a plan B, plan C, plan D, whatever, in order to get the things across. So that's my goal that I really want to do with that book.
I meant also from industry perspective, like for example, dealing with editors, with publishers, all these kind of things. Industry-wise, how did that go for you? Because in filmmaking, you found like some resistance somehow, or let's say discrimination or something. Did the same happen again while you're trying to publish your book, or that was a smoother journey?
Like with the book, it's actually I self-published it. So the thing is, today with all the tools available, so you can do it yourself. So I managed to publish it in different languages. So I did translations myself in French and in German as well. And I published it first on Amazon, and then there's lots of other territories across Europe, for example, for a German-speaking market or French-speaking market, where you can do also self-publishing, or you can have your books even printed in the shops available. Like my book, for example, is available across Germany in all bookshops, and in France across all bookshops, in German as well as in French. So that's also something that comes from my background in filmmaking, trying to do things with what you have. Because I didn't have the patience to go and knock on publishers' doors and so on, and get rejected and wait.
I mean, it's of a piece with your filmmaking. You are a do-it-yourself filmmaker. You've done it all. You said you went and sold it to Netflix yourself. You didn't wait for a producer to find a distribution. You did it yourself, which is admirable. And so something Deema said, I was wondering, she said industry resistance. We definitely heard about critical I don't know if resistance, critical pushback against your film. But that makes me curious. How has the industry, the global film industry, reacted to your work? Has there been resistance? Has there been embrace? No. You know what? I'm going to stop talking. You answer.
Maybe apart
was
from
very embraced.
Luxembourg, yeah. Because mainly the resistance seemed to be in Luxembourg, so maybe the other international
international. That was the word I was fumbling for.
How did Egyptians specifically maybe also react to your film?
like in Egypt, they loved it so much.
Yeah.
Because I was in Egypt just like last week, and people, they really know my film. Like even to taxi drivers, you talk to them, and then they can believe it.
Okay, yes, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, so it had
International,
such
yeah.
an impact. And then people, they tell me, yeah, I watched it on YouTube. Okay, and some people, they give me the link on YouTube, and they said, oh my God, someone stole my film, I put it on YouTube. Yeah? Okay,
Do it
I said,
yourself.
okay, actually, I feel proud. I actually felt very proud. Okay, like that they put it there. Like, okay, so at least people watch it, and I see the views, wow, so many, and so on, all the comments, and that makes me very happy. And
Yeah, it
and
should.
the good thing is, like with this film, it opened a lot of doors. Like for me, for this kid coming from Luxembourg, or even from UAE, because UAE is also part of my my story. So coming from small communities like that, or small countries like that, and then to get offers to work, because I got offers to work in Hollywood and also to work on TV series. Thanks to the film, I did a TV series for Netflix in Belgium a few years ago, and I got offers also to work in Hollywood to do like some really big budget, multicultural films. But I didn't accept them because I didn't like the scripts. And I have also a lot of friends who went to Hollywood and who have worked there, and then they came back to Europe and they felt so depressed because they didn't have any freedom to do
It's very
whatever they
regimented
wanted.
there. Yeah, it's very controlled environment. What sort of project, can I ask you? You said you didn't like the project, so I'm just wondering what were the project? What were they like? Yeah, you don't have to give me specifics of it, but the sort of things you didn't like.
It was like it was like some sort of Ocean's 11 type of film with lots of very famous stars.
So like a heist, crime, caper
A heist
type film.
It was a heist film, international, with lots of different actors from many different countries, many different languages, and that's why.
So it was a comedy, though. So they see you as a comedy director.
It's a comedy, yeah. It's an action comedy, action comedy. Okay. And it was the first part of a trilogy of 3 films, and they want me to be part of the first one. And the thing is, I said I want to be part of it if you give me some freedom to rewrite some scenes with the writers and so on, and to make it more natural, not to have always those stereotypes, stereotypical roles like on Arabs or French people or German people and so on. And but they weren't open enough, and I said, no, I don't want to work in that environment. It's not something that I need, to be honest with you.
Not that you have to name the film, but was it made?
No, it's not made yet, as far as I know.
How about being offered film projects in other countries, other industries?
I got also lots of offers as well in France. I got an offer as well.
What sort of film?
There. It's also comedy, multicultural comedy, based on a book. And the producer is one of the top producers in France. But so that's like we're in discussion like a year ago to work on that, and I started working on the script. So maybe we're going to continue working on it, and we'll see where it goes.
So you've established an international reputation as a comedy director, and I think that not surprisingly, because if you have a comedy that gets a strong response in places as disparate as Egypt and China, clearly you're speaking some sort of international language. Doing something right.
Yeah, that's why I wanted always to be. I was different. So the thing is, that's why, like, to bring multicultural comedies to bigger audiences. That's something. It's my dream as a filmmaker that I always wanted to do. And there's not many filmmakers that are able to do that as well. Okay, it's not to tap on my shoulder or whatever, but it's just like because it's natural from how I am as a person.
No, don't underestimate that achievement. It is not many people who can do that.
You know, I asked you before, how do you keep balance between the trauma or tragedy and comedy? Which part of your story you wouldn't present it in a comedic way at any cost? You think like you would actually be insulting that experience, or it can never be presented in a comedic way?
Oh, that's a very tough question. Yeah, something that's no. I don't know. Like, thing is, because I try to be as open as possible, but at the same time, I have to be also very careful how far you go when you talk with like different subjects and different communities like you want to touch. There's sometimes I need to find the right balance. I don't want to talk about self-censorship or whatever, but really trying to find a way in order not to offend people, and that's really the hardest thing because things I stopped believing in freedom of speech anyways. Because things when you see the world we live in today. Like everything is completely messed up on every level possible. Whatever you say, it will be used against you by any means possible. So that's something.
Apart from how would it be perceived more on a personal level, that this is actually can be really painful, that you can't laugh about it.
Like for me, I have lots of personal issues in my family, for example. Okay, like for example, my mother, like she passed away a few years ago, and it was a very traumatic experience because like the way how she passed away was very unfair. She could have been saved very very easily, but because of the system and racism as well, unfortunately, we couldn't save her. And that's something I don't know if I'm ready to tell that type of story somehow in a dramatic or comedic way. I don't know how I want to say it because I don't think I'm mature enough to do it at the moment. And but thing is, like really, there's so many different things that I want to tell. Like if I show you my notebooks, I have so many stories that I've written over the years. And I know, like one day, like I will have I'll be in the right state of mind in order to tell those, like every story that I wanted to tell. And so it's really a process that takes some time, and in order to do things properly. You know.
So you're never going to be you are, though I'm trying to pigeonhole you, as everybody in the industry will always, with everybody, try to pigeonhole as a comedy director. It's going to be a comedy with meaning. It's not going to be. You're not going to be doing a Cannonball
Yes.
Run remake, in other words. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not like thing is like for me, I don't want to get this stamp as a comedy director. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I'm interested in everything, but like I'm not very interested in genre movies, for example. Like horror movies is not my cup of tea. But
There's enough
but
other
maybe
people doing those. It's good.
because I produced two horror movies, okay, but there was also meaning behind it, like in the story, and also the director's background. So that's why I was interested to produce those. But for me as a director, I don't know if I could do genre moves, for example. Like it's not something that I would do because there's not real passion for it yet. Maybe one day, but it's not something that. But also dramas. I like dramas a lot. Action films, I'm not the biggest fan of it as well. There's also other people who are very good at it.
You said you responded
so-
very strongly to Lahan, for instance, which
Yes.
was a very popular film in France. I show it to my students every year, first year film students, as part of the visual storytelling. We always screen that because it's a it's a powerful film, but it's an interesting one that you cite that as an influence. There's not a lot of comedy in that one, but
But it has comedy.
it does
has a
have
lot
some
of comedy in
comedy in
there.
it. Yeah. So
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, you mentioned your story with your mom. I'm sorry for your loss and for the way that you experienced that loss. Did you change, or did that change anything in you, and how would you express pain, or like how would you express pain in your films? Did that change the tone of comedy a little bit, or you just like remained the same form of expression?
I don't know yet, because thing is, like this happened like 3.5 years ago. So for me, I don't think like I've done nothing like in those past 3.5 years because I was more into producing. So so that's why for me, I don't know yet where the journey is heading. Like, but for sure, it made me think a lot. Like this specific event, it really made me think a lot about life and how valuable our life is, and how things can change really from one day to another very quickly. And those things also inspire me as a filmmaker as well, of course. And so sometimes like you need those dramatic things in order to help you to evolve and to see life differently, and maybe refocus and reshape things in your life, and trying to bring you maybe in different paths some way. Because of my mother's death, for example, that was one of the reasons I came back to the UAE, for example. Okay, because I felt what I felt there, like in Europe, was so dramatic that I said, like if that's where Europe is heading now, it's really really sad, and I don't believe that things are getting better anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but when I see countries like the UAE where everything is so evolving, where the best people are coming to this part of the world, which was so stigmatized for so many years, and maybe generations even. Like it really gives me hope that there's really other places in the world where things can evolve in a very positive manner, where people can live together, where there's less and less gaps in society, and where people can really have a better future, especially for them and for their children. And So so I don't know where everything is heading. So right now I'm here, and I hope to establish myself in the region somehow. That's my main goal.
You know, going back to the beginning of the show when David asked you or like introduced you as a filmmaker and cross-cultural storytelling, that stood out to me as well because you describe yourself as like filmmaker. And why are you so keen on keeping that term, that you are cross-culture storytelling? Right? Like, I mean, because usually filmmakers, when they have this as a genre, like they have a specific genre they write about, they don't say mainly horror writer, or they don't say basically, they just write per industry, not per the specific content. So why were you so keen about mentioning that?
Because that's me. Like, it's gonna be always me. Like, thing is, I always say, like, just watch my name, watch my nationality, watch where I was born, watch my background, watch my story. Like, I mean, like I try to be genuine. I'm trying to be myself, and also there's not many people who do what I do, and maybe that will inspire other filmmakers as well to do the same thing. Because you know, like, for me as a producer, I produce like around 20 feature films, and most directors, they came from very similar backgrounds as me, and also the films that I produced, even though the genres were very, very wide, like from drama to documentaries to comedy to horror movies to children's films. But when you see how those films were made and what is the story behind and the directors, where they come from, and so you see there's a big similarity in the way how we try to tell our stories. And I know there's this new wave of directors, also here in the UAE, that want to tell those stories somehow, but they don't have the right tools yet, or they don't know where to start. And it can be actually easy, but it's just like it's the first step that is the hardest way. And if I can be an inspiration for people who can relate to my story and that have similar backgrounds, maybe that can help them as well, like to find their path in order to fulfill themselves.
That's a beautiful spot to end on. We got the.
Can I have just one
Yeah,
last
sure,
thing? I really don't want to end before asking you this question. Knowing how funny Egyptians are, how do they specifically react to your name? Any specific incident quickly to your name, or how do they describe you? I'm sure they're acting differently than Europe.
While you're thinking of that, I'm going to say we are Crossroads at Mira Business FM in collaboration with Middlesex University Dubai. Search for us on Mira Business FM and online at all the usual platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Okay, over to you. Hi, love.
So just not even react to my name, to react to my full name, not my first name. Because in Europe it's more my first name, but when you react to my full name, because my name is Adolf, the good one, or the good-looking one, or the sweet one, or everything that's positive.
El Assal means
that's how they
honey,
react.
sweet as honey.
I want to be known as
Big
David, the
contrast within the
good-looking
name.
one. Now I know which name to say. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on with us today. We really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. I hate that we have to cut it short, but the blues tune tells us we do. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Adolf.
Take care. Talk again soon.
I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. We would have loved to be in Dubai.
Yeah, we would have loved it too. But
hopefully next time we meet you in person.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay, take care. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Ciao.